Hey everyone, welcome to The Edge of It All. I'm your host, Trey Edge, and I look forward to going on this journey with you. Each episode, I'll talk to guests of all walks of life, and I'll ask them the behind-the-scenes truths we all want to know. I'll reach out to newsmakers, celebrities, athletes, and ordinary individuals who were there during some of the biggest events of our time. Together, we will hear the story behind the story. So let's get started. This is The Edge of It All. Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of the Edge of It All podcast. I'm your host, Trey Edge. Really appreciate everyone taking the time, tuning in today to listen to another great story behind the story. Don't forget, when you're searching for where to listen to The Edge of It All, go to UBN International Network. That's our home studio. You can get this podcast along with many, many other entertaining podcasts. That's UBN International Network. Our guest today is living the dream of music that so many wish they could. Making music, having a voice that people love to hear. This is a voice you're going to want to get to know, because once you hear it, you're going to remember it. It's kind of a soulful country rock sound that has caused our guest to burst onto the music scene. She was a contestant on season 21 of American Idol. Let's dive in to the world of music with the incredible Mariah Faith. Mariah, thanks for being on the show today.
What's up? Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk with you.
Full disclosure.
I mean, and what an intro. Thank you.
Come on now, that's what we do. But I do have to tell the people, before we started recording, you and I kind of bonded via Zoom, not over anything but Southern accents.
I mean, that's the joy of the South. You know what I'm saying? That's that Southern charm we talk about, and people don't understand when you hear the
Mariah,
accent.
South Carolina, we'll get to that in a minute, but you claim South Carolina, right, is the home, and I be in North Carolina, so we could stretch right down I-95 and do this thing in person next time. First of all, I got to ask you this question. You ready? Mariah Faith. Okay. The name itself fit, right? I mean, it has that, that could be a star's name. So I had to put that out there, first of all, because, I mean, is that real name? So I think it is, but it fits, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so here's the funny thing. When I was born, my mom, she wasn't like a singer or anything, but she was very musical. She loved music. It was all in her house. And so we kind of joked that I was named after Mariah Faith Hill, like a little R&B, little country.
Well, again, when I first saw the name and I had listened to you, and that gets you, and that's what we're here to talk about, is your music. But when I saw the name, that is what it conjures up. Honestly, I mean, you hear Mariah, where does it take you?
Mariah Carey. And then you hear Faith.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Faith Hill.
But I guess the goal is, ultimately, when people hear or say Mariah, they think of you. That's what we're trying to get, right?
100%. 100%. We're trying to break the mold. You know what I mean? There can be more Mariah, and we still love her and mad respect to her. But you know what I'm saying?
Does that mean one day you're gonna have to cut a Christmas song as well? Like she.
Now listen, it's a good idea, but I mean, I don't think I can hit the whistle notes and stuff. Be as impressive as.
Your voice, let's get to this, has such an incredible, distinctive sound. And at the end of this interview, we're going to play this thing out with your song, Rainbows at Midnight, and we're going to let everybody hear part of that. What were your musical influences growing up?
So you'll probably get a crack out of this because it's all over the place, like way super. So I grew up in a house that was extremely diverse culturally. My papa, he listened to Motown and folk music, and so I love like Earth, Wind, and Fire. And any like old funky bands. I'm with that. I actually used to sing in a funk band around Myrtle Beach before getting fancy. And then my Mimi, though, she's from the Holler in West Virginia, so she had me listening to bluegrass, and like she gave me a love for Johnny Cash, and I'm wearing my Willie Nelson shirt today. But
love it.
Yeah, so I got that from her, and then my mom was very R&B, like Boyz II Men and Mariah country, but she also loved Rascal Flatts and that kind of thing. And so along the way, I developed this weird little taste. And I think like my biggest inspirations would be like Bonnie Raitt.
Mm-hmm.
She's up there. Susan Tedeschi, Janis
Oh,
Joplin.
yes.
Oh yeah, Janis Joplin is huge. I just love her freedom, the growl, the you can feel that in your chest. I always said I want to be like the female Chris Stapleton, but
Oh,
just because I love his demeanor, I guess, and you can hear it in
yeah.
music as well. So yeah,
That's an incredible list. And let me say, you mentioned somebody, Susan Tedeschi. I was unfamiliar with them. And I consider myself pretty broad-based in my music fandom, much
uh-huh.
like you. I mean, I can go listen to Teddy Pendergrass the next minute if you listen to Kenny Chesney, No Shoes Radio. It doesn't matter.
Yes, sir.
But when I listen to you, it does have that feel. Susan Tedeschi is an incredible talent, incredible voice. And when I
Mhm.
heard her, I thought of Bonnie Raitt. Well, now when I heard you, I thought of those two. That has to be, and I'm sure that's not the first time you've heard that. It has to be incredibly flattering
Oh
to
my
be
God.
put in that company.
Totally, because I like when I first heard Susan Tedeschi's voice, I did a deep dive. I was like, this woman, whatever she's got, I feel like I'm close to that.
Yeah,
That
wow.
that texture she's got in her voice, and so I like learned about her husband Derek and how he has like Middle Eastern influences in the guitar and how he puts it into this blues aspect, and I fell in love with her. And so I have a band I play with locally, and they finally one day they cracked. They were like, we keep trying to figure out who you remind us of, like your voice. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
we found her, and they showed me her singing "It Hurt So Bad," and
Really?
I was like, no way, y'all just said that. That's like killer compliment. And then
Absolutely.
Bonnie Raitt, man, I can't even. It's just different. It's like you
Yeah,
could never really put her in a box, and even I still listen to it. It's like it ain't R&B or country or whatever. It's just good music.
absolutely.
And then I went on Idol, and the judges looked at me and they said that. They were like, you remind me of Bonnie Raitt. I was like, I think I'm gonna have a heart attack. That's such a huge compliment. Like, thank you
I'm
so
gonna,
much. Like,
I'm gonna take you to Idol in a minute, but let me get the formation of Mariah Faith first. Were you the kid who walked around the house singing all the time, or in choirs, or in school? Just take me to your, you know, kind of childhood, and were you just eating up with it from an early age?
it's like I met a lot of other people and they're like, oh, my dad's a musician and he plays guitar. My family did this and that. And for me, it was like, growing up, we didn't like have a ton. We had each other, and I lived in a house with my grandparents, my mom, my sister, my cousins moving in and out. And one thing we all had was music. We all was trying to fight over the radio or whatever. And growing up, I when I went to church, I didn't want to sit in the pew. I wanted to be up singing with the other people. I was screaming as loud as I could, hoping to be like, "All right, Mariah, come on!" Like,
Yeah.
and then when I was in the car, like if someone sang over my song or sang the wrong lyrics, we had to restart the song. You know what I'm saying?
Still true today. I do the
Still
same
true
thing.
today. Yes. And so it just kept growing from there. It was like this seed planted in me that, music felt like my whole life because it's all we really did. And like I said, we didn't have much. And so, like, when me and my mom would spend time together, it would be like us getting in her little Lexus and driving in circles, listening to Rascal Flatts' best hits or Boys to
Mhm.
Men or Mariah Carey. Oh, don't get me started. We would be jamming Emancipation of Mimi. But yeah, so it was like we kind of indulged in it for many different reasons, but I took it very serious. I was like, oh no, I'm going to be something. I got to do this for the rest of my life. And then kind of went from being just an at home thing to my mom married my stepdad, and he was like, you should take her serious because that could be a job. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but like, she's really determined that she's going to be something singing. So we got to help her feed that. And so he kind of moved me to South Carolina because I was born in Baltimore. And he moved me to South Carolina because we knew a dance teacher there. My aunt was a dance
Okay.
teacher. But at the dance studio, they had vocal lessons. So I started doing that. And then I was in show choir, which where I'm from, South Carolina, the show
A
choir was a
big deal now.
Oh yeah, don't play with it. We was going to New York and Florida to compete. And I think that was like the first real time that my instructor looked at me and he was like, "You're actually really good. Like this is not. You should really take this serious. You don't take yourself serious because I guess no one around you ever has."
Yeah.
And I was
But
like,
that's not an easy thing. And you need that encouragement. And I guess that's kind of what I wanted to ask you was that the moment where you realized, okay, wait a minute, this has been fun and people tell me I'm good and all that kind of stuff, but I really might be able to do this.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like the past year and a half, I finally realized that
Yeah.
all it takes is for me to wake up and be like, "This is what you want to do. Stop giving yourself a plan B. Go
Huh.
dive head first into it. Figure out how to build your platform. Figure out how to keep the momentum. Figure out how to make your own music. Because I had never made my own music. I had always
Okay.
written it down in books and tried to
Yeah.
play it on the piano, but I just ended up with a bunch of poems."
Not a bad start though.
Not a bad start because I've learned how to put them into songs and it's been really refreshing. It's like, okay, this can be a full-time job for real. I'm actually kind of getting good at it.
You mentioned moving from Baltimore to Conway, South Carolina.
Oh yeah.
And look, we know the South. We know what makes up a small town, quotes around small town. They don't necessarily have to be small, but
For it
it
to
can
be
have
small.
correct, yeah, it can have that feel. Did growing up there kind of affect the way you tell stories in music?
It did 100% because I felt when I moved there, I was very different from everybody, and no one could understand why I was so different. Before it was dreadlocks, it was pink hair. Before it was pink
Okay.
hair, I was shaving it. Before it was, I always was very sure of myself, and no one could understand that. And so I had to like take a step back and realize like, you are different from these people. And it's okay. You just got to explain it to them. You know, and sometimes it's like a simple conversation of realizing that we're not so different kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I guess when I'm writing music these days, I try to interpret that like we are not so different. And then you're not seeing my face or what I look like, you're hearing my story. And
Mhm.
that's something anyone can relate to. So as long as I lay it out in the proper terms, then I feel like we can get along real good.
Just mentioned something. You said before the dreads, and for people who are listening, not seeing, go on YouTube, take a look at this interview because Mariah also, you've got to look. And honestly, that's half the battle. Let's save that discussion though, because I do have a question about that later when we get to American Idol talk. But you mentioned confidence. You said before the dreads, it might have been pink hair. Before that, you might have shaved it. But you said it was about confidence, and you always had it. That's not something, quite frankly, in 2024 that we hear a lot of young people say. This
Right.
world, in this world battle, it will put things in front of a lot of young people that actually causes insecurity, not being comfortable with their look because it might be measured up against every other movie or magazine or whatever. So my question is, where do you think that confidence came from?
I think it came from my support system. I
Okay.
think that I've had people around me my whole life that have looked at me and been like, "You are different. We don't know what it is about you, but something's different. Like you're different, dude." And of course, when you're younger, you're listening to that like, "Well, something wrong with me?" Like, does that mean something's wrong with me? And then, it just took everyone kind of saying it over and over. And for me, then social media comes into play. You get older, and I'm looking at all these other girls, and it's almost like they start to look the same or feel the same, or their captions are the same. And I was like, man, I'm a lot more fun than that. And I like being who I am. And I think other girls should feel comfortable to do that too. And then I kind of noticed once I started being more comfortable or dressing different than the girls at school, then more girls did that. And then I
Right.
made more friends, or you know what I mean? I kind of just, I feel like sometimes we forget to embrace our little village. Like, I know it sounds silly to listen to your mom and dad or your grandma or grandpa, but they really are the ones who saw it through for you. They've seen it in
Absolutely.
you whatever dream you're having, like they might not have known what the dream was, and they might have been calling you different because they didn't understand. But once you see your dream, then I feel like it's about you carving out the picture for them to understand and just get their support however you can. I actually wrote a song about that the other day about how we take for granted just the little gestures of saying you're different and we see that and we're pushing you to understand that that's okay. And then listening to other people's remarks from the outside world, we just take it so offensively. But
We do.
I think I've started just taking it with a grain of sugar instead of salt.
I love that.
Okay,
We should make that a T-shirt or something.
we should. We're taking it with a grain of sugar. Stop being so mad at everything everyone says,
You start auditioning for American Idol, correct me if I'm wrong, at 15, right?
Yeah, as soon as I could send in a video, I was sending in videos.
So you had to have been a big fan of the show.
Yes.
But I mean, 15. I mean, what kept you going back? Because we're going to talk about season 21, where you made the cut, however you want to put it, in the American Idol world. But what kept you going back in the years where you didn't make it?
I was determined. I was very determined because I just, I try to go get a normal job. I feel miserable. So this ain't right.
Yeah.
I'm in school. When I was auditioning, I was still in hair school. I did hair school in high school. And I still just felt like this is not fulfilling me. So the worst thing they can tell me is no. And I'm just keep sending my videos.
Fair enough.
They can think whatever they want to, but one day they're going to hear it. I know, whether it be them or anyone else in the world. I said, someone's going to hear it because I'm going to make sure that they do.
Yeah, well, they heard it.
I'm not.
They heard it. Because here comes season 21.
Oh, yeah.
You perform Vince Gill's Whenever You Come Around, dedicated to your late stepdad, right?
Yeah.
And the audition blew the judges away. And you wind up getting remarks from, let's be real here, Luke Bryan, Katy Perry, Lionel Richie, who are looking at you and saying, girl, you're a star. I can't say it like they say it, but in a nutshell, that's what they're saying. Just take me to that moment where that's the reaction from people who are regarded as some of the greatest voices and musicians of our time ever in Lionel Richie's case. And they're telling you, you've got what it takes.
I'll tell you what, I walked out with my gold ticket and I walked to my hotel and I called my boss at the hair salon and I said, I am quitting. I said, I love you so much, but like that was the moment for me where I was like, they can see it. Like it ain't just my grandma, grandpa, and my choir teacher. Like, oh my gosh, like, okay, all right, I'm going to take myself really serious. Called, quit my job, love you so much. And I honestly kept looking back at them like, are you sure? I asked them like 4 times, like still just that doubt we all grow up with. We're always, we got to have the normal job. We got to do the normal things. And then you have someone like Lionel Richie.
Yeah.
And he's looking at you and he's saying, baby, you got it. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, I know you're saying it to me, but like.
I don't even know how you would come up with anything to say, honestly.
I couldn't. I was shaking. I was sitting there, I was staring at them, and they almost had to keep telling me over and over again, like, you got your ticket, and I was like, wait, so I can go grab it? Like, are you sure? Because it felt like they were telling me I was a star to like let me down easy almost.
Okay.
You're a star, but next year, like that's how it like. But then I realized like, oh no, they're really serious, and like, oh my God, I didn't sound as awful as I felt like I sounded, and this is happening. And then I go and grab my ticket, and they look at me and they're like, we want you to go open a concert for last year's winners, and I'm like, oh, so you're really serious. It took them almost coming back to me, pulling me back in and shaking me and saying, girl, we're telling you, you got it. Like, just smile, be happy, stop being confused, I was confused. I really was. I was like, I guess because I was auditioning since I could and trying to send videos or go in person to Columbia and stand in the line and all that I was like, oh, wait, I'm finally here in front of them, and I just can't believe that I'm getting told yes. Like, this is freaking cool. I can't move my feet. I don't know how to tell them thank you. I can't speak right now, but like, thank you so much.
You mentioned, and I want to ask you a couple more questions about that American Idol experience, but I do have to ask you because you did say that you made that song, or you dedicated it to your late stepdad, and you have referenced multiple times in the 20 minutes that we've been talking, family.
Oh yeah.
And the importance of that to you. So I just want to go to that for a minute. You dedicated it to him. Why?
Yeah, not necessarily the song, but the whole audition.
Yeah, yeah.
Because every time I would try to tell myself no to do something, or even when I was 15 sending those videos in, I still second guessed them.
Sure.
And the person I would go to is, Daddy, is this video good? Would you play that again? Would you tell me yes? And he would say, stop rewatching it. Just send it. Gosh, like, just do it. Why? You've been waiting for this your whole life. You made your 10th birthday party a karaoke party where only you sang and everyone had to watch. Like,
that is great. That is fantastic.
And then even beyond him, like my grandparents, for instance, like they truthfully have dedicated their entire lives to taking care of not just their kids, but me, their grandkids, and their great grandbabies. And then my mom, I couldn't dedicate my audition to her because I could go on for years about how good she is. And I was like, I don't think y'all are going to get it all in there, how great she is. So let's just talk about my dad because,
Well, you're very fortunate to be able to say that. And it's a wonderful thing. Honestly, it's incredibly refreshing to hear. And it's it adds to the story. And that story of your journey in American Idol, you can tell everybody if you want to, you got how far now?
I was in the top 20.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
and I think when people watch the show, and I think I'm guilty of this, I don't think you truly appreciate what getting to the top 20 means. We say, oh, it's top 20, because they associate it with what? Not the top 5, whatever. But right. Top 20, explain to everybody. I mean, that's crazy success.
Crazy considering, I break it down in my head. I'm like, I auditioned. I'm 23 now. So 8 years I've auditioned. And, you get to the next phase, you get to Hollywood Week. And then the whole time you're so focused on, gosh, I just want to get past this one round. Please just let me get past this, that when you finally do get to the point where it's your time to go home, you're almost like looking back on everything you had to do. Even like a lot of people don't talk about the mental toll of having to put your everything out into the world. You have to just be okay with sharing your story. And for me, that was easy because it's a part of my story. It was not being able to hear other people's and wanting to feel like somebody else. I wanted to relate to somebody. So that for me wasn't hard, but I guess the aftermath of realizing like, oh my gosh, I'm really like deep in this. Like I have to really put my chest into this and I have to be okay with this. And I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's looking back and you're sitting there on that stage about to get, pack your bags, but you're looking around at these people that you've worked so hard with. And you've watched all of us grow so much, my fellow contestants and stuff who I'm such good friends with now. It was almost harder having to watch people I've worked really hard with, like watch them go home rather than myself.
Okay.
We were almost looking at each other like, wow, like I'm so proud of all of us, but is this really it? Like this is amazing, but we worked
everybody sees the glamour side. That's we're watching TV. Okay, we're not living it like you. And I think everybody, you sit back and I'm sitting here interviewing you and wanting to discuss your ride through it. And it kind of makes you want to ask you, can it be a grind? I mean, did they look at you? We talked about your look. Did they do things like, you know what, we might want to tweak your look a little bit? I mean, is there a lot of coaching that goes on? Or is it just because you've made a very, very strong point here in this interview that is all about being true to you and to who you are. So in that space, that confined space of in this packaged product, that is American Idol, is there that pressure to almost, not be your authentic self?
I think it's almost the opposite.
Oh, really?
I do. I think that my time there, anyways, I can't speak for whatever might have happened the episodes after me, but they really wanted us to, pick the songs we loved and make our artistry known. It's all about, building the artist. And I feel like they always had the best interests at
That's
heart.
great to hear.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, yeah, it's hard work and you start getting kind of caught up over that side of things and thinking that you have to be something you're not because of the fact that you're on TV. But
Okay.
I think it's ultimately, for me, I stand my ground no matter what. So
I think that's obvious to the audience by now.
yeah. So like I don't know if they would have told me to necessarily do anything, but I feel like they loved the fact that we're so different and that we're all our own little people. And I think if anything, they just kind of molded us even further into our artistry by saying, be yourself, just be yourself, like
What
yeah.
has life been like after TV, and what have you been up to? Just broad spectrum, big world stuff.
Oh yeah, it's been busy. I'll tell you that. Because I did make the decision, like I'm not stopping there. I'm gonna keep going. So I've been very much back and forth from Nashville and now Atlanta. I've been working with some producers here at Winter Circle. And we're working on a project and I'm gonna be releasing singles next month.
There you go. Next,
Finally,
say that again. Now you're gonna release singles.
One single next month. Let me
One
rephrase.
single next month, and is that what we'll hear at the end of the show?
Yes.
Okay, Rainbows at Midnight, right? And let's talk about that show in a minute, but go ahead with what you've been up to since then. So in other words, you've been going hard.
I've been going hard. I've been going real hard. Like I said earlier, I eliminated the plan B. There is no plan B because that was one of my best tokens of advice was don't have a backup plan or else you're going to follow on your backup plan. So I've been full on trucking it, brother. And it is tiring, but it's been really worth it. And it's kind of cool now. I get to like go into a restaurant at home and someone will look at me like, are you the girl? And I'm like, it's me. It is. That was me. I did that. Actually, I forget sometimes because I've been so caught up in just trying to keep my momentum going,
How do you describe your music? If somebody asks you, Mariah Faith, what's her music like, or describe it to me, how would you describe it?
I would say I call it soul country.
Okay.
It's
I think that's a great description.
Yeah, and almost like I want to say like female version of Chris Stapleton / like almost like Tyler Childers, where it's a little bit more gritty, and he talks about deeper stuff, So somewhere stuck in that middle, but it's hard to give it a name. I just like to say soul country. It's good for the soul and it's got some twang in it.
What has this journey been like starting your professional career in this music industry? I mean, some of the positives and even some of the challenges that you've had to face.
It's been amazing. It really has. It's rewarding. Finally, like I said, I grew up always knowing I was meant to do something along the lines of this. So I feel fulfilled now. But also, it's such a challenge learning. Like before I did anything professionally, I did nothing. I gigged in a band, and I sang around the house or I did show choir. But then you get into these new little tricky avenues of like releasing your own music, for instance. I never realized how hard it is and how much work goes into it and how you have to build your team before you just decide to throw something out into the world so that when it is thrown to the world, it's thrown to the right people or you're not getting taken advantage of. And I think I've just been kind of navigating the business side now. Like now it's less fun. It's more like, okay, Mariah, you gotta lay these rules out and you gotta follow them yourself and also make sure the people around you can, follow them as well and make sure that everyone has your best interest.
Yeah. Can you share, this might be a difficult question because I know it's individual to everyone, but a writing process, writing a song, what is that process like? I mean, the evolution of kind of creating something from nothing? Is there this moment where you're just sitting there? I mean, you go through moments where you can't come up with anything. Do you have these moments where you go, that is it? And I can't imagine what that must be like, just starting from nothing.
Right. So for me, like I said, I had always wrote poems and stuff. And like the one class I was good at in school was English. I loved to write. I was
The one class, is that what you said? The one class?
the one honors class I had was English. All right. So I was serious about it. But it's like for me growing up, Kelly Clarkson was the first person I heard talk about, I hate to be brutal, but like her deadbeat dad
Okay.
when she sang Because of You. And for me, my stepdad was amazing, but I did have a real father who he's in his healing process now, but we didn't have a great relationship. So as a little girl,
Okay.
I wanted to hear someone be like me. I wanted to hear someone with maybe a different childhood than the perfect cookie cutter
Absolutely.
that we see, or you see it on TV and it's always perfect. And so I would write poems first, and they would be just my stories, but almost broken down in a lighthearted way. I
Okay.
would compare things to like childlike things almost, or I would take something negative and try to break it down, and by the end of the poem, make it something that could be great. And so now when I've been writing my music, I've been kind of doing that as well. I've been taking my own story. I've been trying to make it where anyone who listens can relate. I ain't using no first names or nothing in the songs, but finding a universal way where other girls who might have grew, or even guys who grew up like me, that they can hear it and they can say, "Ooh, that's a little intense," but I relate to that, and I'm glad that someone else can say the nitty gritty things we might not hear all the time.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like almost every song is like a little journey. So sometimes I start with just one little sentence. So like Rainbows at Midnight, I actually had texted my mom. I said, "Mama, give me a topic. I got this really good line, and I need a really good like hook for it. I just need something good." And she said Rainbows and Midnight. And I was like, let me eat off of that. Hold on, Rainbows at Midnight, because the line that I had was more talking about what we were going into about like my relationship with my dad in the
Mhm.
beginning. And then it builds off of that and becomes a little deeper. But yeah, I like to make stories. I like it to be a journey, and I like it to be relatable and not just clean cut.
Yeah.
I like it to be
What
real.
is it like to come back to your hometown after what the stardom, let's be real about it, that you had achieved and the incredible comments and success you had? I believe you even went on tour, correct? And played?
Yeah, I went on not like a crazy tour, but I
Yeah.
actually was touring school to school doing suicide prevention and kindness awareness at
Yeah.
schools, elementary, high schools, all that good stuff. But it's been amazing. Every time I go home, it's like it's a little different because like I said, I moved there from somewhere else, and like we were talking about that small town in the
Yeah.
South, and how I really like honestly growing up there, I always felt like I had to prove myself. I always felt like I had to try to fit in or whatever. And then when I finally didn't, it worked out better and people liked me better for just being myself. And so I feel like that's almost what it did when people saw me on TV and they saw that I acted the same and that I represented Conway the way I did, because I do love Conway so much that I came home to like the biggest, widest open arms of like, you did so good. You put us on the map kind of thing. And I was like, oh, and now it's funny. I like go to my little local gas station I go to every day, my boy John, and I get held up in there for like
Shout out
30
to
minutes.
John.
Shout out to John at Sun House. But yeah, I get caught up in there for like 30 minutes now, and everybody's like, don't that get on your nerves? I'm like, no, I prayed for this. I prayed for people to see me and hear me and to be heard and to be saw, like
Yeah.
I waited for this, for people to tell me like, you make me feel like I could make it out of here too, kind of thing.
That's an incredible story. That
Thank you.
really is an incredible, and it's an incredible message to, so many young people to just be you and trust it, love yourself, and like you said, yeah, hug it, roll on.
Roll on, brother. You can't change who you're gonna be. Your
What is
personality is.
what is your dream in this business? And I don't really mean in terms of records sold.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you look back one day and said, man, I did what I wanted to do in this business, what would that be?
I have a couple avenues I could go with that. So
Okay.
I'll go back to like my family, first of all. My real end goal ever in life is where I grew up in Baltimore. It was one piece of property. It was 2 acres. It had two little houses on it. And it was like our family land, and we were
Mhm.
surrounded by everybody. And so one of my end goals is to get everybody back together on the same piece of land again. That's
Well,
one. But also, like, me and my mom have talked about this because she was a single mother, and we face so many trials and tribulations. And I think one of two things I want to do is one, I would like to start some kind of project for single parents for maybe housing, or even like a small community where they have a hair salon and a daycare and healthcare and all those things that people don't realize, like single parents have to fight for that kind of stuff.
mhm.
And also, I've had my battle with addiction, and so I really want
Okay.
to be a beacon of light for people as well who feel like, oh, I'm stuck here, or because I was the addict or addicted to whatever it may be, that I'll forever be that person. And I just want to show people that's not true. Whatever you are, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, you can change, and everything gets better, kind
And
of
you're
thing.
kicking, and you've kicked your addiction's butt. Let's be real. I
Hell
mean,
yeah,
I mean,
2 years
the story.
next month.
I mean, this is the edge of it all. The story. Say that again. This is the story behind the story. So tell everybody.
Hell yeah, I'll be 2 years sober from alcoholism next month. No more alcohol.
You know, that's really interesting. You're 23 years old,
Yeah, crazy, right?
and yeah, and you know the words "old soul" come to mind, but it's not an insult. If people know what that means, you can even channel it to the music you like. You know,
Oh yeah.
people say that a lot about having an old soul. You mentioned Earth, Wind, and Fire, and groups like that. I mean, that was it's sad to say that was in my day. So we're going old soul with you, but it was my day. But it's at 23, you have a unique perspective already. And
Yeah.
I just wonder how much that life already lived and living is contributing to this soulful country music that you write.
It sure is. It's everything I've ever went through is everybody always, some people they go through things and they let themselves get depressed over it or whatever. I like to write a story about it and sing it. I
That'd
like
be therapy too, though, right? I mean, it has to help.
Oh my gosh, it is. It's healing. It is. It's being able to say like these things have happened to me and I don't have to hold them in. I
Yeah.
can, and I learned as well growing up, like I would talk to so many people and they're so afraid to like be vulnerable because the world has carved it out that we can't be open, honest people. We got to be a certain way for other people, and
Great.
don't think that's true. I think that the more I talked to people and told them my story, the more that they had light in their eyes, more like, okay, this girl, she got a point, like we're cool. Like you can laugh and smile and you don't have to harvest these negative things that might have happened to you in a negative way. Turn them into light. Make yourself a light.
Yeah,
That kind
I
of
love
thing.
that. Before we let you get out of here, and again, this is Mariah Faith joining us here on the edge of it all. You mentioned single coming out,
Yes.
and you said you even told us a little bit about how that came to be. You were talking to your mom, but so tell everybody again, coming out next month, is that correct? Do we know an
Yes,
exact
sir.
date or just
Next
next month?
month, I don't have an exact date yet,
Okay.
but we're working on it. And as soon as I have a link, I'll send it to you.
Okay. Okay.
um, but
And
yeah,
if
it's
you
called Rainbows at Midnight.
and if you had to say what the song is about,
It would be
could
about,
you even do that?
yeah, totally. It's about my journey with addiction, actually.
Okay.
It kind of starting where it's rooted. They always are like, you get told your whole life, oh, it's in your blood, da, 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 and you never really believe it until you realize that addiction actually is in strands of your DNA. And that if you aren't careful with what you do, like you will turn out to be the person you didn't want to be. And it's kind of me. It's where I watched it, which would be with my real father. And that's the first verse. And then the chorus is about him handing it off to me ultimately. It's your
Okay.
turn. You're grown up and it's in your blood. So it's your turn to experience this. And then it's me going through it, the depression, alcoholism, the not wanting to get out the bed, the realizing, oh my gosh, I'm everything I said I never wanted to be. And then the healing. And then the realization, the end of it is the realization that it's okay and it's okay to grow up and realize that it was in your blood, but there's a way to maybe not fix it, but cope with it and heal from it and make yourself be strong. And specifically, I know the term rainbows at midnight, it sounds a little funny, but for me, it's like finding hope in the darkness. I feel like at the darkest moments of my life, I was looking for something that wasn't there, like a rainbow at midnight, like looking for these crazy things that being like, someone pull me out of this, someone pull me out of this, looking for hope. And really, it was just in me. It was here all along. And I just needed to open my eyes to that and be receptive and learn myself kind of thing.
Well, consider me a fan.
Oh.
And as many people who have already been exposed to your voice, it is now time to be exposed to your music. And what is fascinating to me is it's just a great story. And people love great stories. And when people have great stories, real stories, it's really easy to cheer for.
Thank you.
And I get the feeling you are going to have a lot of people who just cheer for you, not just because you got a hit,
Yeah.
but because you're real.
Yeah, I think I want them to cheer with me. We're going to be all hands together. I'm really
Again, at the end of the show, when we play this out, we're going to listen to a little clip of Rainbows at Midnight. But Mariah, listen, we'll close this thing up with just a thank you. It's our first time getting to know you and getting to know your music, and it's been an absolute pleasure. You're unique, and in today's world, that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
But congratulations on all of your success. And for everybody who wants to go find your music or follow you, where do you want them to go?
On all my social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, I'm at the Mariah Faith.
At the Mariah Faith.
Yes,
we wish
sir.
you the best. Single coming out next month.
Yes, sir. Thank you so
there'll
much.
be much, absolutely. And we will be watching and we will be listening. Appreciate you coming on the show, Mariah. It's been fantastic.
Thank you so much, Trey. It's been great.
Absolutely. That'll wrap up this episode of The Edge of It All. Be sure to listen to our podcast on UBN Go International Network or wherever you get your favorite podcast. Thanks for making The Edge of It All one of those selections. You can find us wherever you get your podcast. You can find us across social media. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Thanks to Mariah Faith, a star in the making. Everybody, check out her music. You're going to want to be in it from the ground up because it's going somewhere. Thanks again, Mariah.
Thank you, Trey.
Appreciate everybody listening today to The Edge of It All, the story behind the story. Each one is a new episode with inside scoop you have never heard before. We will close the show with a clip from the new single from Mariah Faith, Rainbows at Midnight. Thanks for listening, everybody. Till next time.
You've been beaten